a small town on the outskirts of the country, where nothing had happened for many years. Its inhabitants lived in the usual rhythm. They woke up, worked, grew old, and died. But all that changed when one day strange footprints began to appear in the surrounding forests. They didn't look like animal tracks, but rather smooth footprints, as if someone was pulling something heavy behind them, leaving wet and dark patches. At first everyone thought they were the marks of a flood or an unusual rainstorm, but when those who ventured deep into the forest did not return, rumors quickly spread through the city. It was said that something had awakened in the forest, unnatural and terrible. Along with this, the locals began to notice changes in their bodies, at first imperceptible, but then more and more obvious. Dark spots appeared on their skin, as if it were rotting from the inside. The other day, one of the local farmers noticed that his hands had become covered with sores, and when he tried to treat them, instead of improving, a terrible rotting began. The local doctor, Dr. Henri, decided to look into it, but soon he himself also discovered that his body had begun to be covered with strange spots. He tried to find a cause: humidity, chemicals, but nothing could explain this consumingly nasty disease. But soon the doctor realized that the problem was far more serious. One night, as he was walking through the forest to collect samples, he encountered something indescribable. A figure stood before him, all covered in rotting mold. It wasn't quite a woman, not quite a person. Her skin was as if clumped together with the surrounding plants, and her eyes were half closed from decomposition. "You felt it too, didn't you?" said the figure in a quiet voice. "This is the beginning, and we're not going to stop." Dr. Henri took a step back, but the figure didn't move. All he could do was stare at her as a curse lashed out. "We're all going to become this." Her whisper was everywhere. And this was just the beginning. Dr. Henri quickly made his way back to the city, his thoughts filled with horror at what he had just seen. His heart was racing. He could barely breathe. Everything he had experienced didn't seem real, like it was an ominous shadow ready to engulf the world. He ran through the streets, not noticing people, not noticing anything. The whispers of that figure sounded in his head, her words that seemed to cling to his mind, to crash into his memory. This was the beginning. When the doctor reached his hospital, he found that several patients had begun to complain of strange symptoms. One of them, a farmer, was lying on a bed, his body covered in gruesome sores and his skin resembling rotten wood. He begged for a drink, but when Henri offered him a glass of water, the patient refused. His lips were bloody and his eyes full of terror. "She came, doctor," whispered the farmer. "She said I must be with her, and I can't stop." At that moment, Henri realized that the disease he was facing was not ordinary. It wasn't just an infection. It was something cosmic.